Welcome back to the Fit Like Krys podcast. Happy almost February, the month of love. We have a very special guest and we're going to get into talking about love a little bit and FLK Method's infamous challenge, Love Toned. But before we do, let me introduce her. I'm gonna talk about these in the order which I think they're the most important. Not the order that she sent them to me. She currently stars in Coronaville. It's now streaming on Amazon Prime. It is so cool. Please look, Google it, watch it, support her. She is a FLK Method member since it started. She's been working out with me well before that, 2016. Proud cat mom. That is important. Self-identified Disney adult. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in relation to dating. New Jersey, born and raised, but she currently lives in LA. How I met her, she was the queen at medieval times in New Jersey and California for 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then turned a union organizer for the Union of Medieval Time.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And she also is a former prize-winning figure competitor, which we talk about a lot when you do training and stuff with me, because you have a lot of knowledge about fitness and kind of like how that plays in now, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, please, warm welcome, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
And I think we're kind of going to pivot into a bunch of different things, but the overall theme is dating.
Yeah.
And I thought of you specifically because we're same age. And I've been with you through your sort of dating journey and where you are now.
Yeah.
Lots of ups and downs, which we will go through for sure.
Yeah.
And you were an avid watcher and supporter of the Love Toned challenge. And now that Love Toned was a success for me and I have a boyfriend, I was like, I need other people to do this. One, for entertainment, and two, because it works.
Yeah.
And the reason it works is something we'll get into. But before we get into all of that, I want to start with sort of the big thing, right? Because I think a lot of people dating in their 30s and 40s, it all starts from a breakup, right? Because we're dating in our late 30s and 40s because something didn't work out for the most part.
Yeah.
Some people are single until then, but most of the time it's because there was like not a small breakup. Because when you're in your 30s and 40s, it's something that has to happen, right? For you to, from again, most people. So I kind of want to start there at the beginning of sort of where we are now. So the relationship ending or wherever you want to start with that. And that's going to kind of start off where we're going.
Yeah. So, I've actually, I was a late bloomer, so I didn't really like start dating until I was in my like mid 20s. Yeah. I was just like never the girl that like had boyfriends in high school or anything like that. And then, kind of immediately like jumped into a very serious relationship. Like I didn't know how to date as an adult. Honestly, still don't really know how to date as an adult, but, you know, it was the first relationship like where you make all of your mistakes and stuff, which most people have in their teen years, but I had it in my like mid to late 20s. So
like what kind of mistakes are we talking?
Well, I mean, just like figuring out who you are in a relationship. And, you know, we also started dating like right before the holidays. So I had never like met someone, started dating and just kept dating. And if I'm being honest, I probably shouldn't have let it go on as long as it did. Like I knew pretty early on that he was more emotionally invested than I was, but I was like, maybe this is just what dating as an adult is. Like he was a really nice guy and he had like checked all the boxes on paper. He had a really good job. He owned a home. He had a nice car. Like showed up when he said he was going to show up and called when he said he was going to call. Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. Like consistency, and I was like, well, if I, like maybe he doesn't make my toes curl, but like, again, maybe that's like not what dating as an adult is.
Yeah.
Right. And then we started dating like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So now when most people are kind of like figuring out the early parts of dating, it's like you're meeting my family because it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And, so it got very serious right away. And then like I knew I was moving to North Jersey, like moving out of my parents' house, starting the next phase of my life. And he just like kind of came along with me. And so like all of these things that I probably somewhere along the line should have been like, maybe this isn't meant to be. I just never did. I didn't have like a really compelling reason to break up with him. And I was too young and too inexperienced to know that feeling that way is a reason to break up with someone. So when that relationship ran its course, it got really ugly and there was somebody else involved and there were things that like I wish I hadn't done. But again, this is like,
you didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're figuring all this out and you're making the mess. And it's even messier because now you're older, you're pushing 30, and you are talking about marriage with someone that you probably wouldn't have if you had met in your teens or early 20s. So that was my like first experience with relationships. And then I dated the person that kind of like interrupted the relationship and that didn't work out. And then I started seeing someone from work, medieval times dating service. And
a night?
That was not a night. No, no, that is an occupational hazard. But we met someone at work and we were together for a long time. And then I wanted to move to California. And in the meantime, we had like kind of grown apart. And I didn't think that we should try to save the relationship by moving together. So we made the decision to end the relationship. And then when I moved out to California, I started dating my most recent ex-boyfriend, who was the person that interrupted my very first relationship. And yes.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Little tidbit. Okay.
Yes.
This is why they say don't recycle.
You know what? Yes. But he and I started dating pretty much like right when I first moved out to Los Angeles. So like, my point with all of this is that I went from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next for the better part of 15 years. And everything just always happened. Yeah. So everything just kind of really happened organically. I never had any experience with dating apps. I had I just kind of like always met people. And he and I were together, that last ex and I were together for about 3 years. And we experienced the COVID breakup kind of like in delay because we were living together in a condo that he owned, but we also had 2 adult male roommates. So like, whereas most people had that initial experience of, this is the first time I'm really alone with you over a long period of time, and like kind of broke up right away during COVID. He received an unsolicited offer on his condo in that time when like real estate was going crazy, and we didn't have any reason to be in Los Angeles. So we moved to Maui for 5 months. And that was when, for the first time, he and I were really alone together. And you're also in literal paradise. And if you are waking up every day in paradise and you're not happy,
that's there you go. Okay.
So I mean, I don't want to like, I was absolutely blindsided when he ended the relationship, but yeah, I mean, I had to come back to Los Angeles by myself. Basically.
What was that?
That was July of 2021. So 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on a very similar trajectory. I was not blindsided, but very similar story where it was back-to-back relationships. One of mine ended up being a marriage. And when it ended, I wasn't blindsided, but I was blindsided by the fact that I had no idea how to live my life not in a relationship. That's what I was blindsided by. I was like, what? I don't even, who am I? What do I do? I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't want to be by myself. Like, this is awful, that kind of thing. So I relate to you in that way. And then sort of what happened sort of in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, now going on 4 years, sort of after that relationship ended, I think you're maybe I think you're maybe like 6 months or a year behind me in
Mhm.
that, but you're on the same
Yeah,
path, which is
yeah.
why I'm sort of leading you into to take the challenge of love tones.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who are not familiar with what love toned is, 2 years in a row, actually. Last year, it got a little more serious, but it started 2 years ago where I essentially shared my dating life with my friends. I mean, like there were some people that were asking me like moral questions. They were like, "Well, do the guys know about this?" And I'm like, honestly, like I'm not doing anything different. I justified it. I was like, I'm not doing anything different. Like these people are literally like, these are my people. I see them every day. They want to know about what's going on. I'm just telling them in a really structured way.
Yeah.
um, so we had it was like all you guys knew everything,
Mhm.
how tall they were, what they did, where they lived, what they didn't do, like I just held nothing back. And this past year, the reason why it sort of months after, it actually wasn't initially when I was doing it. It's months after in this year as I've been talking to my friends who are single in their 30s and up, especially ones that want families. Um, I've been talking to like more referencing that because I had such a structure to it that similar to like a workout routine, if you're like, oh, I really want to get in shape, and then you go to the gym one time,
Yeah.
nothing's gonna happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So similar, like if it's like I really want a partner and I really want to be in a relationship, if you go on one hinge date, what do you think is going to happen?
Mhm.
And that's what a lot of people do because a lot of them don't have great experiences. So then you are disheartened and you're like, I'd rather just be by myself, which is also a great option. But again, if you really want to be in a partnership and you really want to have somebody, I started to realize that there's a little more something to this love toned because the reason that it was successful for me where I found people that I enjoyed, right? Like hanging out with and like talking to. It's not like I only connected with one person. I just found someone who I connected with the most,
Sure.
right? But there were actually multiple people who I connected with. And that's also the nice part about um the structure gave me the accountability.
Mm.
Because if it was up to me, I would have canceled every one of the like I was moving, I was right, like it was so many things. So for you, since then, since 2021, right? How has your dating looked? How many dates would you say you've went on and like from where and like what does your dating life look like?
Um, well, I'm pretty non-existent. I met one person organically sort of right after the breakup, and it it didn't work out, obviously, but it was probably like too much for me at the time.
Mm,
The one thing I will say about my last real relationship is that not only did the relationship end, but it really like destroyed my confidence, and like not even like decimated. I was starting from like back, like beyond zero.
mhm,
And it took a lot of, I had to go to therapy, I had to get medicated for anxiety, I had to, there was a lot of like personal work that I had to do
mhm,
to even really be at a place. And unfortunately, it took sort of dating this person to realize that I still had a long way to go before I was really going to be ready for that. And he was a saint, and we're still friends. I don't know if he's listening to this right now. Probably not, but just in case, now you know. And there's a whole lot of things I never told you about that had absolutely nothing to do with you. But it was but so I went to therapy, and really by the time I was um starting to feel like maybe I had come out on the other side of the breakup was when I took on the union project at medieval times. So, and that really took up about 2 years of my life. And then when that was done, because that's a whole other conversation, when that was done, I really had to grieve that, because not only did that become my whole life for 2 years,
Right.
but
It really did.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for 13 years, this was a job that I loved and poured a lot of myself into. So I had to grieve that whole thing as well. So it's really only been in the last few months that I've really felt like, oh, okay, like I'm potentially feeling like I could maybe start to put myself out there. And then it didn't take very long on the apps to get disheartened and everything that you're talking about.
Right.
And figuring out how they monetize loneliness and all of that. So a lot of it felt like kind of scammy to me. And but the reality is that I live in the city that's consistently ranked the hardest to date in the United States, or like one of the hardest. But another one of them is Glendale, which is like part of Los Angeles. So I'm not, it's very funny. But so there's that. And then um I work from home. I work out at home. Like I like most of the time, like choose not to leave my
And
house.
this is why you are the person,
Yeah.
for this, because it's like, our stories are so parallel, literally decimated confidence, worked from home, ton of people I could talk to, but like, like didn't have to talk to, self sustained and contained life literally inside my house. Dogs who I love, cat who you love, right? It's like I don't need anything else. This is fine, but it wasn't. I've maintained. I mean, there was a time where maybe I wouldn't have said love is the most important thing in my life, but I said it for a long time, and I sort of lost that, but now sort of back to it. And the only way to, kind of through that is through like this very, in hindsight, grueling dating
Yeah.
process that I would not have done if I didn't have the accountability. So back to the structure and why, no matter where you are in your dating journey, and you don't have to participate in love, you don't have to be someone in Love Tone to do this, but it's just saying like, I'm like, these are, 25 people who in the next 3 weeks, like I have to go on a date with, right? And then there was in my mind, it was like, if this person bails, or if I can't do this, I have to have a backup option, right? So there was like literally a method to this whole thing where I had to get a certain number. And the sort of lesson in it all is the same lesson that's in any area of your life that you're trying to grow in. Like you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable to see progress. If you are never uncomfortable, you're not going to see a change or progress in that area. And dating is the most uncomfortable. It is the worst. So, and because of that, you can get into this, like you just said, like you can get into this, like really focusing on the cons. LA is the worst place to date. I've had terrible experiences. I don't, whatever. They're truths, but they're the cons. There's always pros.
Right.
There's always pros. There's always cons. And I find and found in my personal experience too, and through talking to women who are single in their 30s and 40s, that the cons are comforting, right? With the cons, you don't have to be uncomfortable because they're true. Right? LA is the hardest place to date, right? Like men suck.
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Yeah.
Like it could be true. And then there's all these other things that are also true that we're just kind of taking out of the conversation because it's convenient.
Right.
So that's sort of what we find during this process. So I want to do my quick fire.
Okay.
It's my new thing.
Ooh.
This is not the end of the podcast. It's just a part of the podcast. If my timer works, there it is. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to it's only a minute.
Okay.
So we have a minute, and I'm just going to ask you questions, and you're just going to answer them short. It could be yes, no, or just a short answer because we only have a minute.
Okay.
I have to make sure I have okay, here we go. You ready? It's going to start after I ask the first question.
Okay.
Because I was just going to ask one. I was like, you know what? This is going to be part of my quick fire. All right, here we go. Get my finger on the start button. Hinge or Bumble?
Hinge.
Flowers, like to get flowers from a date on the first date, yes or no?
No.
Older or younger?
Yes.
What is your, during your healing process, what was your self-care go-to thing?
Wine.
What was your worst date in the shortest way you can say it?
The only way I can sum it up is wine up, oh.
How do you get in your own way?
Not leaving the house.
Ooh. Best date.
Saved by the Bell.
That's funny. Oh my God. Wait, what was the one we have to go further into? What did I ask you? Oh, when I said older or younger, you said yes. Does it matter? Do you date?
Yeah, no, I don't have a particular preference. For some reason, I've dated younger, but I feel like that's just younger guys in general, for whatever reason, tend to like me. I'm trying to think. Two of my three serious relationships were younger. One really only like a year, and then one was like a couple years. And then the first one was a couple years older. But if we're talking like older, like I probably would not date someone 10 years older. But like 5-6 years older. I mean, that's usually like my window is like 5 years above, 5 years below.
So now that we're here talking about your window, let's talk about your checklist.
Oh, geez.
Because everybody has one of those.
They sure do, yeah.
Even an opposite of a checklist, right? Like things we don't want.
Mhm.
What are some things on your must-have?
Must have no kids.
Ooh.
Must not want to have kids.
Oh.
I mean, like I took care of this ticking time bomb last year. Like but like I've known since I was 16 that I don't want to have kids.
Same.
And yeah, exactly. And so you've heard it all like, you just need to meet the right person and blah. I'm like, no, I don't.
I need to meet the right person who also loves dogs as much as I do.
Yeah.
Check.
If they have a cat or they love cats, that's a major plus, but I'm like totally okay if they have a dog or whatever.
Okay.
What's other, those are like, that's like the major deal breakers.
And that in this age group that comes up, like either the guy's going to have kids, like that's actually your pool goes.
Yeah, considerably.
Because not only can they not have kids, but they don't want kids.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now you'll find a little bit more of that in Los Angeles.
What if they have adult children?
My issue with kids is not about the kids themselves. It's more about like the ex-wife or the ex-baby mama. Like to me, there's always another person in your relationship when there's a child. And I'm not talking about the child.
Talk about more of that. Okay, so no kids, can't want kids. What else?
Please no ethical non-monogamy listed in your
yeah, what does that mean? What actually, when I was on Hinge, all that portion, I was like the what are you looking for portion, right? Some of that stuff I was like, I don't even know what's happening. Why can't we just be like, what are you doing?
Here's the thing, like I know because of my circles, I know a lot of Ren Fair people. I know most Ren Fair people are polyamorous and like some form of
what people?
Renaissance Fair, like
Ren Fair.
Yeah, Ren Fair people are like poly or like in some ethical non-monogamy, and so I'm like very familiar with ENM. But statistically, the amount of people who actually identify as ENM and
can you tell us what ENM is?
Ethical non-monogamy.
What is that?
Basically just people who are in open relationships. So that can mean anything from like you have a primary partner and then you just kind of like have hookups on the side and everybody knows about it. Like the ethical part is that like everybody knows about it. They have established ground rules as part of their relationship and their open relationship contract. And then some people are like legitimately polyamorous, meaning that they have multiple partner. They are in multiple relationships and have multiple like partners. Maybe one is a primary, but they, and I know a lot of people for whom that's their relationship dynamic.
Does it work for them?
They absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
So absolutely no judgment for people who are legitimately E&M. That's not how I identify. But absolutely no judgment if that works for you. But statistically, the amount of people who are actually E&M versus the amount of dudes on Hinge who say they're E&M, what that says to me is you don't want me to be put off when you show up with a wedding ring because you have on your profile E&M. Like, and don't come at me like maybe I'm just making a gross generalization here, but because I also like
about your checklist.
Exactly. Like, so if you say that you're E&M, like I'm doubtful that that's actually the case, but B, if I don't want to have kids because I don't want to have another person in the relationship, or I don't want you to have kids because I don't want you to want there to be another person in the relationship, that also means like not another partner in the mix. Right. And that means I'm not going to have another partner in the mix. Again, like if that works for you, if that's your relationship dynamic, fine, but that's not.
You're like a one person and we're together and that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay. What else? What about some like brass tacks things? Just like basic things like someone does or doesn't do or looks like, or what about physical attributes? Do you have any do's or don'ts? What about height?
You know what? I honestly don't care about height. I know for some people that's a big, I've dated tall guys, short guys. Like I don't really have,
that's usually a big one. That's why I ask.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm 5'3". Most people are taller than me. So it doesn't really matter.
Clear.
This is going to sound bad, but like the guy can't be balding.
Like, you need a head of hair.
I need a head of hair.
It's your personal preference.
Yeah. But I'm also a sucker for like really good hair. Like if a guy has like great hair, his hair is fine, whatever. But if a guy has like really good hair, it's like, whew.
Yeah. That's from all the nights and the long hair.
Or did I work at medieval times because
there you go. Was it the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question.
But let's see. I don't swipe on someone. This is going to sound bad. I don't swipe on someone who says that they're moderate because that says to me that they voted for Trump and they don't want to admit it.
The title of this episode is going to be, this is going to sound bad. Before you say everything, you're like, this is going to sound bad. Okay. So no Trump voters.
Correct.
Or like in the closet Trump voters. Okay.
And then I don't know, like looks wise, again, it's just mostly the hair is the deal breaker, which in my age group kind of narrows it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and men only?
Men only.
Men? Yeah. Okay. So men, no kids at all. Hair. Democrat-ish.
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of their job, I don't really care. I do have like on my profile, it says like, do not talk to me if you've ever crossed a picket line. And that's just like a very personal thing. So I don't know how many people see themselves out because of that. Like, I mean, we're seeing more of a union movement now in the last few years than, the decades before that. So people might not even know if they've ever crossed a picket line, or B, if they ever would. But yeah, that's just like a moral thing.
Since you work from home, would you move for love?
I mean, I have. Like in terms of like physically moving into the space, I wouldn't like move to New Jersey from California, but would
you move to, I don't know, Washington State from California?
Probably not. Washington's cold.
Would you move anywhere other than California, or do you just love California?
I love California.
Okay. California girl.
Yeah.
Katy Perry. All right. Okay. And what about icks? Like something that someone might do or say that maybe they had you at first and then you're just like, oh God, no.
Any kind of like microaggression or like subtly misogynistic behavior.
That's an example of a microaggression. I love this.
I'm just trying to think of, I was just like,
just so that other women can spot it.
Yeah.
or like hidden.
Subtle misogyny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think of an example. Like,
What about, is it okay if a guy like orders for you, or are you like, what are you doing?
I'd be like, what are you doing?
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Um,
What about like opening a car door for you or that kind of stuff?
that's nice. I
Okay.
think, like chivalry is okay to a certain degree, but also like don't take away my agency. So like to me, well, I mean, I guess it would depend. Like if we discussed what I was
Mm,
going to order and the guy just like takes it upon himself,
got it. Okay.
that might be
Uh-huh.
one thing. But usually what happens is that the waiter comes to the table and like starts with the woman anyway.
Yep.
So
Yep.
but if he was just like, she's gonna have this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Um I don't know. I thankfully I've been pretty lucky. Like I haven't dealt with that like too much. But I mean, like I can usually tell from their profile, right? So like if a guy says in his profile, you better not have any bikini pics on your profile, I'm like, that's a red flag.
Mm.
Or you know, like little things like that where you're just like,
Yeah, let's talk about some Hinge profiles that you've bypassed. So like, what's some things that you've looked at and you've been like, absolutely not? Is it, other than the hair, are there any other things that you're just like, no? What about clothing? What's in the picture? Like if they have a fish.
uh, if they if it's a lot of like, this is gonna sound weird, be not bad, weird, because fitness is important to me, and I, you know, do work out regularly and make it a part of my life. But like when a guy's profile is all gym pictures,
Mm,
I'm like, I don't want that to be your whole personality, because
right.
like I also like I'm not a, this was something that came up when I was competing, because a lot of times I'd meet people at the gym, and guys like, because that's where they met me, they would like want to talk to me about working out,
Mm,
and I'm like, I work out because I have to.
right.
It doesn't really like interest me.
Yeah.
um or if they, oh, this used to drive me crazy. My ex used to mansplain dieting to me. Like I
Ooh.
had not been on some diet or another since I was 12 years old. And, you know, I'd be like, well, but like his version of dieting, or eating correctly, was intermittent fasting, which literally just meant he didn't eat breakfast and then like pigged out at lunch.
Mm,
And I'm like, well, I lost 10 pounds doing intermittent fasting. Okay, cool.
mm,
I lost 25 pounds doing Whole30. So you're going to tell me that the way I'm cooking is like not gonna work for me when I know that it works for me.
mhm.
So that was always something that like bothered me, is, or like when dudes try to be like, oh well, you know, like you have to work out like this or whatever. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Also something special. I mean, because I think regardless of gender, men, women, anybody telling you what to do, um, unsolicited,
mhm.
like actually didn't ask for your advice. That's always hard, especially when you're trying really hard and you're putting in a lot of effort and you have a lot of knowledge in the area. But men specifically, just because their bodies are completely different, and
Yeah,
you know, obviously they know that, but there's a point that they don't.
right.
Same thing, women. This goes for women too. Like this is like when you're telling your husband or your wife, your partner, like what to do, and you're a different gender than them, like that's actually, women and men's body require different things. There are some basic things that can align, but it's actually depending on your goals and obviously a lot of things. But gender does play a big issue in nutrition and working out too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So too much fitness is their whole personality, and or because I see this a lot because it's Los Angeles, guys that like post pictures from like on top of a mountain. I'm like, good for you, but like, I'm not gonna go hiking with you. So like,
We're literally, I mean, we're not the same person. We're so different, but we are very similar in our dating.
yeah, yeah.
It's like, I'm like, yep, 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 yep. Um, yeah. And so this is the other reason why, oh my God, I'm so excited for you, because obviously that pool is really small. However, because I put my checklist aside opened up I didn't have any restrictions. So that's the part of love toned. You're not going to be able to have any preferences. Even though we're going to pay for it, you're not going to have any preferences. There's no height.
Even the kids think.
There's no age. There's no kids. You could do a couple. Maybe we'll pick like your top, there's no point.
Yeah.
You know, I think for the kids one, I put, because my boyfriend has children, so it definitely wasn't I think it was like, I'm not having kids kind of thing. Like you can't if you have kids, whatever, because that looks so different in so many different ways. But like distance, like there are some things but I didn't even consider it, because if I did, I wouldn't have had as many options.
Sure, yeah.
Like it's like, it takes the pool from 100 people to 5.
Yeah.
If I consider my checklist.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I'm not going to do that. I'm literally just going to take it all away. And the point of this is there's power in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go on 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, dates. And then we're going to go from there. And it didn't start off with, the point of it wasn't for me to find someone that like in my heart, I was hoping to, but that wasn't sort of the point. The point was just to get myself to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you kind of approach it as I'm getting to know myself better, regardless of if I meet anybody or not, because that was the energy I had also going into the dates.
Mm-hmm.
Like the energy was, and even setting up the dates, the energy was like, yeah, I'm down to get to know you and cool. It wasn't like desperation or negativity or coming from a place of cynicism, or because that energy, regardless of what you say, affects things.
Yeah.
So I think when the energy is, I want to get to know myself better. This is fun. I'm not doing this for anybody but me.
Mm-hmm.
It changes the way that you date.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes the importance, and like, because it is the most important decision you can make. I believe that the person who you're choosing to like share your space with, your time with, your opinions with, your fears with, like that is so important. But if you think about that, like in the dating process, it makes things almost impossible because no one's going to check all your boxes.
Right.
And when you remove the boxes, you're actually going to find that someone is going to check boxes you didn't even know existed. And you're going to be like, I didn't even know I needed that because of the type of person I am. And that's going to make the other box insignificant.
Right.
So your checklist changes depending on who you meet, kind of.
Yeah.
But the non-negotiables are important, and those should be tied to your values for sure. If they're value-driven, that's important, and moral-driven, that's important. But there has to be other stuff. And there doesn't have to be other stuff. You can do whatever you want. But during Love Toned, that other stuff is that other stuff is just off the table. I'm not going to get into politics because it's just something I vow never to do. But when it comes into dating, from personal experience and in life, and I have my sister who is very into politics, like on a whole other level, who would not consider that, like in her dating. That's something that I've been exposed to so many different types of people because I haven't taken that into consideration. And I've met people who have completely opposing viewpoints who I liked, regardless of that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, again, getting to know yourself through these meetings. Essentially, they're like little meetings of getting to know yourself in mirrors. And sometimes those mirrors, I've also had people who I will never see or speak to again change my life because they said one thing to me that was a reflection based on their perspective that was their perspective.
Oh, wow.
And no one else had that perspective. And I was like, huh. And it wasn't that I took things to heart and changed myself because of what they said. It was just like an interesting observation that I was able to agree or disagree with and be like, actually, that's a really good point. And I was able to bring that. It was like through the dates, I kind of grew.
Oh, wow.
Like through dating. So you're going to get to experience that too. And it's something, again, I think only someone would do if you literally set the structure to do it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just cancel and stay home with your cat.
Yeah.
Speaking of staying home with your cat, outside of working, dating, going to go on this love tone journey as we're in the new year, what are some things that you're going to do to focus on yourself?
Well, the big one for me is that right now I'm trying to figure out what the next thing is now that like medieval times is out of my life, and because that was like a performance outlet, that was a creative outlet. I don't really have that, so trying to figure out what that is.
In terms of actress life?
Either actress life or just finding a way to be creative,
Okay.
even if it's not for anyone but me. Like I don't really have that right now.
Do you go on auditions regularly?
Not regularly. I kind of put that aside during COVID, and then like I went inactive with SAG-AFTRA, and without getting into like the whole business of acting side thing, like because of how strongly I feel about unions and my like union membership, there's just kind of like some logistical things.
Yeah.
But you know, just trying to figure out like how that will play out in this like new phase of my life. But also without getting like too much into it, I don't think he's listening to this right now, but I need a I need a new job. So I'm trying to figure out how to get into the union world.
Okay.
Whether that's professionally or like if I can just get involved like from an activist side or something like that. That's
cool. Have you looked at things? Like, what is that job title?
So there are a couple different, I mean, like there are people who make their living as union organizers.
Okay.
I'd be open to it, but that's also like a huge emotional expenditure and a roller coaster that I don't know if I could like constantly be on that roller coaster all the time. But I'm looking into like maybe getting a job as a communications person, like for a union, or being a business rep, meaning that I'd work for the union, but I kind of be like the first line of defense when something happens on the job. Then like,
so you just like really loved that you want to make that part of what you do. Would you move for a career?
Within California, probably. But like California's huge.
In California.
I'm not. California's huge though, and California's a big union state.
Okay.
So you know, there's a lot of opportunities there. But I mean, like between Orange County, which is where, you know, Medieval Times was, Los Angeles County. I mean, first of all, there's a million, like I wouldn't say a million. I'm kind of like seeing what's out there. But if a union job doesn't appear, I want to maybe like somehow get into activism with a cause that feels really important to me. So I now that I'm sort of on the other side of the grief process, well, I'm feeling better in the grief process. I'm feeling like, and especially not to get into politics, but especially in light of what's coming. I feel like I'm feeling ready to fight again. So, and that's like a big, I've just kind of got a fire. Like I need to put that energy somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I encourage you to put that energy to yourself first, because that's going to then help everything else get fired up. And often people think about it sort of as the opposite, right? But if you're fighting for yourself, then you have the energy to anywhere you go. So, I mean, there's so much on the horizon for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a word for the year yet? Have you picked your word?
I have not picked my word for the year yet. I actually I invested in like they call it's like a manuscripting journal. So it's like manifesting, but like journaling and stuff like that. So like I'm working on like restructuring my morning routine and trying to like, so
be working backwards.
Yeah.
It will reveal itself.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I'm like, I'm trying to think that, I don't know. I don't know. It's a little bit pressure.
Is it
like
gonna,
pick it right now.
Is it going to sound bad?
It's going to sound bad. That's going to be like my mantra for the year. This is going to sound bad.
No, I think this year is going to be really, really epic for you. Yep. I'm seeing it. I'm just seeing it. It's coming to me.
Maybe just growth. Maybe that'll be my word for the year.
How about uncomfortable?
Yeah, I could do with that.
Yeah.
From an astrology standpoint, Jupiter is moving into, is it Jupiter? Yes. Jupiter is moving into Cancer, which I'm a Cancer rising. So that's my first house. So like, and it's like right before. Yeah.
She got the houses.
So the house of the self, the first house, it's moving into Cancer, like right before my birthday. And I'll be turning 42. So that's, like the meaning of life and everything is 42, just kind of like, so Jupiter is the planet of expansion and all of that.
When is your birthday?
June 26th.
Okay.
So my Cancer sun and Cancer rising. So all of the Cancer.
Water.
Yeah. Well, yes. Cancer sun, Cancer rising. And then my moon is Capricorn. So and they're like diametrically opposed.
Do you talk about astrology on a first date?
I don't know. I think it would have to depend on if it comes up organically. It might. It would probably be a deal breaker for some people, but also in Los Angeles, it's a little bit more like acceptable, socially acceptable to be. But like, I also don't know that I would want to tone down my woo-ness for someone.
Yeah.
Like if you can't hang with me at my witchy, you don't get me at your majesty.
These houses. You don't know your house, but I'm gonna tell you about my house.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to provide a copy of your birth certificate so we could establish what your houses are.
I think I might have. Did I put it on Hinge or did I put it on one of the? Maybe it was like Facebook dating. I think that I put something about astrology on Hinge. I don't know if it's still there, but I had put on like Facebook dating, like one thing you should know about me is, and I was like, I'm going to ask you for your birth date, time, and place.
It's amazing. And I will, and we have to wrap up this episode, but before we do, I just want to say that you are a perfect person. You don't have to change anything about yourself. That said, I will say that similar to Bikini Bootcamp, I love using it as an example because marketing, it's called Bikini Bootcamp, but it has nothing, little to do with that.
Yeah.
Like who we are is so much that to explain it in 5 sentences on an app, right? It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like that stuff that makes me, instead of thinking about like, oh, I don't want to change myself or I don't want people to not know this about me. The way that I think about that stuff is like, that person is not really going to have access to that part of me until a certain point.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's not really like I'm faking or I'm being something different. It's just like, we are so layered and a lot of stuff it's better off to keep it to ourselves because it's so much, especially if we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Cause then it's just like a waste. Then you're just like never going to see that person again. And what was even the point?
Yeah.
So I think like part of the getting to know myself actually was through not talking about myself. I already know all that information.
Yeah.
It was actually about like listening to them, seeing how I felt in different situations, right? Like seeing how I felt, especially in a situation that I wouldn't regularly be in, because I wouldn't be on this date if I hadn't been going through a list.
Yeah.
Right. So I think like all that stuff, I wouldn't worry about not being yourself because that's impossible. You're always going to be yourself.
Yeah.
But be a little, guard your heart and who you are on dates because that's not even, let people be them. And it's almost like it's like a strainer, like let some stuff come through, but not all of it right out the gate.
Oh, yeah.
It's like those memes that it's like, I just overshared way too much, So definitely be yourself, but save it, save it for the people that are going to appreciate it and not make you feel like it's too much or you're dumb or you're stupid or you're too this or you're too that. Like, I don't even want to have that conversation,
Yeah.
I think we always tend to say a little more anyway. So practicing holding back and listening more was really helpful for me to get to know myself.
Interesting.
Cause I was like, I would be thinking about like, I would typically say something here. And like, what does that say? Like, I just really was, even though I was listening more, it helped me to get to know myself more and in a relationship, like how I want to be a partner and what that person is seeing too.
Yeah.
Right. Like sometimes it's when you're talking, it's hard to see yourself. Like you can't experience yourself when you're being, right? But if you're aware of like the whole situation and you can kind of hear and see yourself, you can kind of see how the other person sees you and hear how the other person hears you and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or like when you're about to say something like, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Because you're so like tuned in. So in terms of like all of your views and your likes and when we do this love toned, that's not what we're doing, right? There are going to be a few people who get to know you on a deeper level and then even on a deeper level after that. But for the most part, it's you just showing up and being uncomfortable and getting to know people and dropping the judgment, because that's what you want for you too.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't want someone to judge you because you know what your house is, your third house is.
Yeah.
That's not who you are.
Yeah.
That's just like something which is really cool.
Yeah.
So same thing. Like it's just, I think that's something that we all could do less of, and it's really hard because it's human nature to like judge. So to notice when we're doing it and to be like, you know what? I'm just like, one of the best practices I did, I can't remember what prompted me to do it, but it was to go on like a second date, because the first date I just totally shut it down. I was just like, nope, absolutely not. No, 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 no. But then I think it was just like literally a voice in my own head. It wasn't even someone else. It was just like a voice that was just like what is, because it was like almost a thing like if anybody saw me with that person.
Oh.
But I'm like, who am I to like what? Like this is a person. Like what? Like I noticed myself being so judgmental and like, what am I insecure about that I can't be seen with this person, or I can't, be, it was just like so dumb, but it also stemmed from, I didn't feel shame about it. I just noticed it because it stemmed from what I knew.
Yeah.
And like status and what the appearances was a big part of like most of my relationships. So it was like, what is it about me that is making me say that? Like, nah, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
This is a human. And so it was just like dropping all my judgments, again, pros, cons, right, wrong, and just allowing someone to tell me or show me who they were. It was a really cool process. And most of the time, didn't turn out well.
But you are a success
You
story.
only need one.
Exactly.
You only need one. And what a success it was. So I cannot wait for Love Tones. I am so excited. I am so excited for you because of how you're going to get to know yourself, regardless of how it goes. It's definitely going to change your perspective on dating and who you are as a partner. So it's going to be like a big growth opportunity, and all of you can follow along. Our challenge is going to start not the first Monday in February. Actually, let me look at my calendar so I can give people the right dates. Our challenge is going to start. And the thing about Love Tone that makes it so awkward is that it's right in Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Which is when everybody's like, and I remember like I went on a date on Valentine's Day.
You did?
I did. And it was just so awkward.
Wow.
Yeah. This was 2 years in a row I did.
Well, I did bikini boot camp the first time you did Love Tone, so I was not I was not following along on that journey.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, super awkward, but you do it anyway. But also like it's like you don't have to, but like if someone asks you, okay, like that's so awkward, but like, we're going to do it.
Did he show up with like flowers and chocolates and everything?
Was it a flowers and no, a card?
Oh, okay.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't overdone. It was like fine.
It would have been really cute if it was like one of those like kindergarten Valentines that like.
And see, that's what you could do.
Yeah.
Right. Like and that's also something I would think of like what I wanted someone to do. And then I started doing that. And you could kind of create that own energy in your life and in your partner. So we're going to start Monday, February 3rd. So It is coming very soon. So if you want to be a part of that, this is a behind the scenes for members only, by the way. You can't just follow along with this on Instagram. So not only is Love Toned for your own personal wellness and fitness, this is a 14-day, actually it's going to be more, I don't know any information about my own challenge. It's going to be a couple weeks. And you're going to have a checklist to help you feel like your best self. You're going to have a set of workouts to get love toned. And we're also going to have love toned behind the scenes featuring Erin. And also you're going to be joined by Brittany.
Yes.
So you guys I cannot wait. I'm so excited. You don't even understand. And I know a lot of people out there are so excited too. You guys are going to have fan clubs. We're going to have t-shirts. We're going to have gang. We're going to have inside joke if you weren't there.
Oh, I should have worn my I'm a monster sweatshirt.
Oh my God. Oh, the memories are just, and I cannot wait to make so many more new ones.
Love toned is forever.
And love toned is forever. Thank you so much for coming all the way here.
Thank you for
talk
having
about
me.
your dating life and rehash and opening up a new chapter in 2025.
Yeah.
With FLK Method. Woo! Thank you for sharing it with us and volunteering.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
I love you. I love you. Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, listening, and we'll see you next time.